Hi, my name is Emily from Team 2056 and the First Canada Youth Council. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Hobbins for joining us for this roundtable for us to ask you some of our questions. So first question I'm going to start with is, how did you get involved with FIRST?
Well, thank you, Emily. It's nice to be here with all of you again. Back in the day when I started teaching, my very first permanent job in Brampton at Turner Fenton Secondary School back in 1997, 98. And at that school, I was a brand new teacher, and my lead teacher, who sort of was coaching me, my mentor, he said to me, "You've got to get involved in this program I'm running, and it's called Canada First." So that was my very first sort of dipping the toe in the water experience for me. And then it transitioned to, starting and becoming involved in developing a new school, this new school of the future. It's going to be called Rick Hansen Secondary School. And so that was really good. But what was crazy about this new school was they wanted to be an innovations hub. And what came with that was the idea of robotics. And so I started working hard to get some robotics curriculum developed, developing a program within the school, converting RC cars into little robots and so on, playing all these different sports games. It was really quite cool. And then we got a visit by a fellow named Mr. Mark Redner. And this goes back in 2003, where Mark Redner came to my school, did a tour, a walk around, asked me a whole bunch of questions. And that was the beginning of our rookie year, is back with my involvement with Team 1241 at Rick Hansen Secondary School.
That sounds amazing, just like, especially because we know Team 1241 is such a amazing team, and to think that's just the beginning and that's where you're started, that's just an amazing story.
For sure. Hi, Mr. Hobbins. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you, and I hope you are too.
I am, thank you. It feels a little bit like deja vu since our last interview with you at First Canada Live. But my question to you is a bit more about your background in terms of what you did prior to the beginning of your career with FIRST. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what you did before joining FIRST.
Sure. Back in the day when I finished school, so back in the 70s, that is, so 1978, I left Canada and went to the United States to work for the US government, if you can believe it.
Wow.
And, back then, so way back then. And then, you know what, I got a little bit bored and maybe homesick, so came back to Canada. And in 1980, started an apprenticeship with Stelco Steel in Hamilton as a machinist. And then evolved from there to a tool and die apprenticeship. And really got off to a career that was very rewarding, and one that offered me opportunities for employment anywhere, almost any time, and best of all, with a very satisfactory wage way back then. And then, of course, I continued to do that, and I got a little bit more bored. And so I thought, you know what, I want to get into this teaching thing. And that was always a passion for me. And so with the teaching, I started to teach at Mohawk College, their apprenticeship program, and that was back in 1994, just before I started to get into the real realm of teaching. So I was kind of transitioning between working as an apprentice or tool and die maker back then, and then trying to dab my toes into this teaching piece. Right. And so I started teaching the apprenticeship program 1997. I left industry and went into teaching full-time, which brings me back full circle to my story about Turner Fenton Secondary School. Started off with Peel District School Board, and back in 1995, with that little bit of overlap, I enjoyed the role of Science and Technology Coordinator, which really has helped me in this role to have that good lens on what students across the whole school system-wide needs are. And then got into this role, this very exciting role as FRC Director in 2012.
Wow. Well, I always love hearing about your diverse background, and I especially like that as an aspect of our 7 Skilled Trades interview series, because we get to hear how people move from career to career and don't always stay in the same place. And I think that's really inspiring to all students who are watching this, not quite sure where we're going to be going in our futures, but that's all really interesting. Thank you, Mr. Hobbins.
Hey there, Mr. Robbins. Thank you for doing this interview again with us. And you've been involved in FIRST for so long, preliminary, you were a mentor at first, and then you ended up as director of the FRC program. So you've played a key role in FIRST Canada for so long, since almost the very beginning. And you've seen firsthand the impacts that the program has on students. So in what ways has FIRST changed the way that you look at STEM?
Well, really good question, and nice to meet with you again there, Param. STEM is critically important, I think, to all of our lives in so many different ways, and it goes much more beyond the STEM piece. When you think about adding the A and you've got STEAM to honor all destinations out there, really is important. But basically first opened my eyes to a lot of the importance of global networking and networking with groups that support STEM. And there are these hubs, STEM hubs all over the world that are out there. But it really is about the opportunities for every type of learner out there. And a good example is whether you want to go into the trades, the business, you want to develop your own companies. I've got students that I've seen go off to neurology, genetics, molecular genetics, nuclear engineer at Bruce Power Plant, and so on. Just so many great careers. And one of my students who was, a superstar on our team, and she's studying medicine over there in Cambridge and across the pond. So it's just fantastic. So really, I like the idea that STEM really helps everyone get exposed to a variety of careers that are out there, and really does catapult anybody involved in FIRST, exposing them to STEM, to being on that threshold of their careers going forward. That's going to be meaningful to everyone.
For sure. It's absolutely incredible to see what impacts that FIRST has on these students and the variety of different career choices that they're exposed to. And it's awesome that you're involved at, getting kids exposed to STEM at this very critical juncture in their lives. So thank you for that.
So our next question for you is, what changes do you see happening at events next year in response to keeping safe among the pandemic?
Wow, what a great question, and one that everybody wants to know. And you could ask me this question every week, and you'll hopefully get a slightly more improved answer as we get closer and closer to knowing what we're going to do. So we don't fully know what we're going to do, but we are getting a lot closer, certainly since the last time I talked to everyone. Some of the ideas, we have tournaments that are about 8 months from now that will start to get underway. And then, of course, there's all the preparations in advance, which I think to some degree are going to be a little bit easier because teams are going to play a similar game. The robots are pretty much built, being fine-tuned or iterated to the extent that each team thinks. But to be more specific, to answer your question, we talk a lot in the background at FIRST Canada. We meet all the time and brainstorm these what-if scenarios, and wondering what will it look like as we get into the thrust of the season, so October, November, getting ready for the competition season. So what I could tell you is we are thinking, we've been talking about definitely having events, perhaps smaller events, which I think will be actually good for everyone, not just because of the COVID piece, but they'll be good for everyone because if you have a slightly smaller event, there's more time to be able to go about what you're doing. Perhaps the schedule is a little bit less intense. Judging, taking out of the events what we could, so we do that ahead of time or certainly external to the day of the competition of the robot. So judging outside. And then perhaps maybe even being really smart with our strategy. And what if we were to plan 2 or 3 tournaments in one weekend at the same venue? So we did say a tournament one day, a tournament the next day, and so on. So we're really grappling with that a little bit, but I think we've made some really good headway. And I know that by the end of the summer, FIRST wants to be able to come out with some kind of FIRST Canada, a message to our community to really give you some good insight. But be sure that whatever we do, we're going to be well prepared to deliver a fantastic program. And of course, not to leave out the safety piece. We've discussed many ways on how we're going to improve that safety, where those cleansing hand washing stations are going to be, what's the protocols within the building, outside of the building, who's going to attend, how many can attend, and all of those types of things will be all moderated to ensure that we have the best possible safe scenario for our students to practice what they love first.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And to know that First Canada is working so hard on trying to make it so that we will have competitions next year, and every team will be able to compete. So it's so exciting to hear, and I'm so excited to hear what First Canada has to say at the end of the summer.
For sure. And I feel like I'm thinking about what new role safety captains might have at competitions this year. But my next question, I think, is a bit of a difficult one. It certainly is for me, because I'm thinking about all of the different skills that we learned from FIRST, from engineering skills to design to business to communication and presentation. And these skills really set us up for life in so many diverse ways. So I'm wondering, Mr. Hobbins, in your opinion, what do you think is the most crucial skill that students can take away from FIRST?
Well, you are all very experienced. You've been through FIRST, so you know there's a plethora of fantastic skills that you're going to take away from being involved in this program, whether it's 1 year or 4 years, or you continue to be involved once you finish high school and move on and so on, and leave your team and come back in some other capacity maybe. But you know, it's very important, the whole idea of essential skills, right? So you're going to be exposed to, we're going to nurture those skill sets in you. The students that are introverts become extroverts, shy to outgoing, and so on. So, and how to interact with other people, very, very important. One of the key things is understanding that you will be prepared to do any career path that you want, any career that speaks to your passion, whether it's skilled trades, into some type of technology or medicine or the arts or what have you. But to narrow it down, if I can, it's not so easy,
Right.
is the idea of critical thinking and collaborative problem solving. So you are faced and bombarded with that with the FIRST experience in a very good way, where we stretch you so you learn as much as you can. You learn how to network with others, and you know that you're not an island, you're not by yourself in isolation, that you can, well, other than COVID, but you can reach out virtually to anybody in the world and develop those relationships and understand how to get what you need to be able to solve a problem. So that whole piece around tapping the skill sets of others, building upon your own strength, and understanding the importance of how well prepared you are for your journey going forward.
Well, I think that's a wonderful answer. And if anything, I feel as though FIRST has really prepared us with those problem-solving skills, with those collaboration skills that we're seeing are so especially important right now with a global pandemic going on. And I see that we're seeing FIRST teams mobilizing right now, and we've also seen alumni. And I think it's really wonderful that you mentioned that, because I really can't imagine any job that wouldn't require that critical thinking and those extremely critical problem-solving skills. So thank you.
So much of the FIRST family this year is graduating, and we've learned these plethora of skills over the past, couple of years that we've been involved in the program and have taken so much out of it. But we were just wondering, so for all the graduating alumni now of the FIRST program, what advice do you have for us, going off into wherever life takes us?
Yeah, well, first of all, everybody's situation is different, right? And we all have different aspirations and career paths that we're heading off to. Some really are focused, know what they're doing. Some, it's a little bit more vague, but they just know they want to stay involved in something as good as, say, FIRST, for example. So number one, stay involved in FIRST in some capacity, whether that's mentoring, whether it's coaching, whether it's a volunteer, whatever, or being involved in the youth council, for example. There's so many different things that you can do that will be extremely important. Volunteering is just so crucial to be able to be that person that impacts the experience of everybody else at an event. It really is quite important. However, to be very specific, the whole idea of learning how to pivot in difficult situations. When you think about that and what we've learned over the last 4 months or so, and how do you take difficult moments and turn them into very positive, very meaningful moments for other people, and actually continue to be change agents in your lives, right? So I think that skill set around pivoting is just crucially important. And I would say to you, though, that when you do transition on to the next phase, the next chapter of your life, ask yourself, what have you learned through the experience, the personal growth that you've gone through? And that idea of being able to speak proudly about your skill sets and what you're able to do, how you can impact others, how others can take your skill set and be able to make change going forward. It really, really is important. Years ago, not so many years ago, maybe 5 years ago, one of our top judges in Canada, very well respected judge on the world stage and in Canada, had said to me, John, we need to do a better job to get our teams to be able to speak about themselves more, to basically brag, to talk about yourself and to promote yourself. So that piece, I think that's a real important takeaway for everybody. It's really, really important that you make a positive change in others by talking about your abilities, leveraging those abilities, and for sure, be confident, be brave, and perhaps brag quite a bit about yourself.
For sure. I know that many of us who are graduating will, absolutely utilize that skill set that we've developed through FIRST and the programs that have been absolutely vital to our, education in different ways, through the soft skills. And definitely, always keeping the backdrop of gracious professionalism. Whenever we brag, we're going to make sure to brag in the best way possible. We're always going to brag in a way where, we're always looking to help the people around us. So I think that's definitely a very good point. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Param. I think you said that better than me.
So I know that FIRST has truly inspired me through different events and different interactions. I was wondering, what is the most inspiring event or interaction you have witnessed over many years with this organization?
Holy smokes, there are so many wonderful, wonderful, inspiring moments. The Canadian success on the world stage, the moments where you're so proud of everybody. And what's, wonderful about us Canadians, and certainly from how we as a group go internationally and compete. And we compete, and as each one of us perhaps gets eliminated in the tournament, but there's other Canadians involved, we band together and support that Canadian and help them get as far as they can. So just seeing that camaraderie and that support for each other is fantastic. But who could forget the great moments around the Afghan girls that came to Canada and how they were supported here? How about the Girls in First weekend and all the great stuff that happens there? Our team's winning worlds. Every couple of years, there's something where there's a major win on the world stage by an Ontario team. Just absolutely fantastic. And I really am proud about the things like the equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I could go down this long list. It's just so wonderful to be involved in an organization as such. But I'm going to narrow this one down again for you. Years ago, I had an experience, at the North Bay district event. Might have been a regional back then. Can't remember that far back, but anyway, team 5672 from Manitoulin Island. I met that team the very first year. I met the coach, Chris Namirah. He's just fantastic. Mm-hmm. And they did so well at that tournament, and they were 8th seed alliance. And the moment is this. Let me describe it for you. So this very shy girl from a remote community is now on the floor with a microphone put in her face, asking her to select her alliances. And she was just so shy. And the beautiful thing that happened was she would watch our superstar Karthik, MC Guru, come over, put his arm around her, the game announcer, come over and support that girl and help her through her picks. And then it got even better than that, because the next year, when I went back to the North Bay event and I went to the pit, to the booth of that team, and there was this girl there that was just so outgoing and so crazy with enthusiasm and excitement about FIRST and all of her teammates. And I said to the coach afterwards, wow, that girl is amazing, but what happened to that girl from last year? Like, did she leave the team or whatever? He goes, no, that's her. So this girl just transformed into this wonderful human being that was outgoing and full of energy and passion. It was just so good to see. So it boils down to me, the most inspiring moments is when I see people's lives being changed and people becoming the person that they really are from the inside out.
Yeah, that sounds that sounds amazing. Like the the examples you mentioned at the beginning, I completely agree with. Like I think it's impossible to pick a most inspiring event or interaction. But that one's, I had never heard that story from you before, and that sounds absolutely amazing that someone can just like find who they really are, and it's, yeah. Just thank you.
I guess that's what first does to people, right?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Hobbins, I have a bit of a different question for you next, and I don't think we actually sent this to you in advance. So it's something new, and I know that I've talked to you about my career prospects or what I hope to do in the future. So my question to you is a bit more about your own future. So I guess, what do you see as the next steps in your career? Will that be to continue with FIRST? Will it be running for Prime Minister, maybe world domination? What are you thinking?
Boy, that's a pretty loaded question, but I'm to answer, because I will say to you, it comes full circle, because when I go back to the beginning, and I was involved with 1241, and I really drove that team hard. And one of the things that frustrated me back then was what we would do each year is we would help one rookie team, and then two rookie teams, and 3 and 4. And there was one time where, I'm not kidding you, there were 7 other FRC teams in our shop building their robot while we were building our robot, because we couldn't say no. We just wanted to help. So my frustration was just wanting to help people, help them be able to experience this to the fullest degree. So that's why going into this job was so wonderful for me, because now I feel like every team in Canada is some way a part of my team, or I'm a part of that team. So it really is wonderful. So I don't think I ever want to let that go. But what I will say is that somehow, some way, I will stay involved with FIRST. You know, I would love to judge someday too, because, and why would I like to judge? Because the judges have that exclusive interaction with the fantastic youth that we have on these teams, right? So think about how wonderful that would be. So whether it's staying involved part-time, whether it's staying involved in this role for a while longer, staying involved as perhaps a judge, but somehow being maybe involved with more teams. One of the things I did think about actually was, wouldn't it be great to have an opportunity where any team could call at any time? I'd be happy to come out and talk to them and share with them anything that I could that perhaps would benefit them going forward. So yeah, I have big dreams that way. And certainly I don't see a future for me without FIRST in it.
Oh, that's so sweet. Well, maybe you could do part-time judging and part-time visiting teams, and then the other part could be US president. What are your thoughts?
Well, you know, maybe I'll tell you the full truth, because the one thing I really would like to do, and I've thought about this a lot, is I would like to go talk to everybody I can in FIRST and write a book.
Ooh.
What I would like to do is capture the wonderful stories that everybody has that they want to share about FIRST. And, you know, kind of like a microcosm of what we've talked about today in these questions, but what they've seen in FIRST, and share that aloud with everyone else. And just, I think that would be wonderful for people to hear. It would also be fun, because there's a lot of great fun stories out there, as you know, from zip tying your mentor up so they can't get out during build season and all of those kind of things.
I love that. That sounds great. And I can assure you that us 3 will be 3 of the first people to purchase that book. Hopefully get signed copies too. Sounds great.
Excellent.
So while that book absolutely sounds amazing, I'm going to ask you for, you know, a sneak peek of one of the pages. So even though it's not published yet, I'm just going to ask you what's on one of the pages anyways. So having mentored a FIRST team, you recognize the importance of good mentorship on teams and in life. So could you tell us a little page of a story about who's been a mentor to you and how they've influenced the person you are today?
Sure. You know, and I say this very sincerely, my mother was a super hard worker. In fact, she worked way too hard, for sure, and she could never say no. And so I did want to grow up learning to be able to say no a little bit, but that's not worked so well. But I certainly took on the characteristics of working hard, and I love working hard. and she was just a wonderful, wonderful person and a very big influence in my life, of course. One of the things that a lot of people don't know is my wife is a past administrator. She's just recently retired, and she had a passion for at-risk kids, making sure that every youth had an opportunity, that nobody didn't experience disappointment because they couldn't participate in something, that they all had everything that they needed to move forward. And she's taught me so much about how I look at how I was delivering my teaching, how much I could be better about making sure others have opportunities too. And as you can imagine, that dovetails very nicely with FIRST Robotics. But going back to my early story about Turner Fenton Secondary School and then being involved in designing the school of the future, I was approached by a superstar guy named Mr. Mark Cianfrini. His brother was the big shot at the Ministry of Education, really wonderful person who led the Specialist High Skills Major program. And Mark Cianfrini, we thought so much about him, how much he was an advocate for technology, how much he was an advocate for skilled trades. And we even thought so much about him as an educator and as a person. We named our full technology wing at Rick Hansen Secondary School after him. So it's called the Mark Cianfrini Technology Robotics Wing, if you can believe it. So I still stay in contact with that guy today. He can still advise me on a lot of things. So he's just been very inspirational and very important as a mentor. And I think everybody should have somebody they could talk to about anything they want to talk to, so that they could get that other person's perspective and be able to support each other to move forward.
That's an incredible tale of, two people who have played a huge influential role in your life. And it's so amazing to see that, no matter where you are in life, no matter what you're doing, there's always someone that can serve as a mentor to you, and you never truly stop learning. And I know for a lot of us on the Youth Council and, in FIRST Canada, we looked up to you as well as a key influential mentor in our lives. And we learned so much from you, as we have today in this call. So I'd like to once again thank you so much for joining us in this interview. And we have absolutely loved learning all these things about your life and all these experiences that you have. And we are truly inspired by you every single day. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. And, I want to say how much we learn from you. And we continually are reminded of the importance of making sure that everything we do is about making other people's lives better. So thank you so much. I hope you take care, stay safe, and look forward to seeing all of you very soon.
Thank you, Mr. Hobbins. We're looking forward to seeing your book on our shelves soon.